Hello and welcome to Political Dharma with me, Alan Zundel. As I record this, it is Monday, June 9th, 2025, and I have a bunch of updates for you on political parties, including factional fighting within the Democratic and Republican parties, updates on the Green Party, the Forward Party, the Libertarian Party, the No Labels Party, just a bunch of items that have been piling up for the last week or two as I covered other subjects. Of course, the big news of this weekend was that President Donald Trump bypassed the California governor to take control of the California National Guard and send troops to Los Angeles to try to tamp down protest against his rather draconian immigrant deportation policy. Trump, of course, is blaming the protesters as rioters, and I think he's even mentioned looters, or at least some Republicans talking that way, and blaming Democratic policies being soft on crime and having sanctuary cities to try to block federal policy from being appropriately administered. And Democrats on their side are accusing the Trump administration of trying to escalate these kind of confrontations to have an excuse to implement full-scale military rule and send in troops for the defense of this and other measures. So it could be potentially a big blow-up, a sign of coming demise of democracy, or it could be just another dust-up between the parties. But there is blame to go around because, in my opinion, of course, those of you who have been following my videos know that I'm going to put some of the blame on the two-party system itself, in that with only two political parties, because of the kind of electoral system we have, it's always going to be mainly two political parties unless something dramatic changes. With only two political parties, they're each susceptible to takeover by the very wealthy and powerful corporations, which the Republican Party's been that way for over 100 years, up until maybe recently. And then the Democratic Party was taking over. Really, they took control in the 1990s in the Clinton administration. And the upshot of that is neither party was really representing well the vast majority of Americans, especially those working Americans who saw their financial fortunes declining. This was what was behind the Trump movement, his whole MAGA movement, appealing to the working class, taking over the Republican Party from the old elite and trying to draw in lots of new voters. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party, it's not very credible opposition organization in terms of defending democracy because their own anti-democratic moves in the presidential primaries. And you know the drill. I have complaints against both parties, but what's happening in those parties and what is happening in those parties that are trying to supplant the two-party system and gain some kind of forward momentum for alternatives to this. Well, let's start with the Republican Party. Recently, there was an event by a Republican organization called Our Republican Legacy. Now, Our Republican Legacy was formed about a year ago as an anti-MAGA coalition within the Republican Party, formed of a bunch of former senators and Congress people. You see here their announcement that on May 29th, which was about a week and a half ago, from 1 to 4 p.m. in Washington, D.C., they held their first big press conference in order to talk about their plans to ramp up their organizing within the Republican Party to overcome the MAGA forces. Some of the people involved in this are former Senators John Danford and the former chair of the Republican National Committee, Michael Steele, names that you may be familiar with if you're a political junkie, otherwise maybe not so much, but there's other big names involved as well. Here are some of the founding members, and I've highlighted those you're most likely to have heard of. One is John Boehner, who was the former Republican Speaker of the House of Representatives, who since has retired because he was kind of thrown out by this Freedom Caucus that formed and gave him a lot of headaches. Adam Kitzinger, a former congressperson, I think from Illinois. In any event, he was in the House of Representatives, and he voted for the impeachment of Donald Trump and got on the bad side of Trump, and now is out of Congress and trying to help organize this movement. Also, the former Vice President Dan Quayle, who was Vice President under President George Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush. I almost forgot his name there. How could I forget? George Bush. And then Mike Pence, who, of course, was the first vice president that Donald Trump had in his first term of his administration. So they are ramping up their efforts, and just recently said they're appointing chairs or having voluntary chairs recruited, some system for getting people involved in many of the states of the United States to get this movement started. Meanwhile, on the Democratic side, Politico has reported that the new chair of the Democratic National Committee, in a private meeting with about 10 of the committee members, expressed his extreme frustration at fighting within the party. He is accusing David Hogg, a vice president of the DNC, also well known as a survivor of the Parkland shooting massacre when he was in high school, I believe. He became a gun control activist and is now very active in Democratic politics. There was a dust-up in the Democratic Party because Hogg has a political action committee that's raised a lot of money, and what he intended to do was to primary some of the Democratic incumbents in safe districts who his organization and he regarded as incompetent, mostly those who are too old to really be serving in office in his estimation. And the new chair, Ken Martin of the DNC, has said that the political infighting over this has made it very hard for him to exercise leadership, and he's very unhappy about this. That report was in Politico June 8th, just yesterday, and let's take a look at some of the quotes from that private meeting. Martin said it's making it hard for him to demonstrate leadership because this contention within the party says no one knows who the hell I am, right? I'm trying to get my sea legs underneath me and actually develop any amount of credibility so I can go out there and raise the money and do the job I need to put ourselves in a position to win, he said to Hogg. And he does concede that Hogg didn't intend it, but he's saying he's destroying any chance I have to show the leadership I need to, and it's very frustrating. Martin, the new chair, well, he was campaigning to become chair of the DNC, and they had a very contested election. He said he wanted to, quote, he called for a, quote, excuse me for the double quote, he called for a, quote, massive narrative and branding project, end quote, for the Democratic Party. So the three things that he seems to be focused on are, number one, raising money, number two, rebranding the party, and number three, changing the narrative about the party. No sign there that the Democratic Party needs some kind of reform. No sign there that they are wrestling with maybe why so many working class voters have deserted the party. Just blaming people for stirring up trouble within the party, just as the centrist Democrats who are dependent on corporate money, that's why he wants to go out and raise money for the party, that's what he knows how to do, are saying the progressives are inhibiting their efforts to give the party a new face, not a new body, just a new face, mind you. So a little opinionating on my part. Let's look then at the alternatives to the Democrats and Republicans who in our electoral system generally have very little chance of winning. But in a few states, we have a different system of electing people called a top two primary, where all the candidates from all the parties run against each other, and the two that get the most votes are the only two that proceed to the general election. So this gives a shot to third parties who can actually get enough votes to get into that general election and compare their positions to one of the major party candidates. Hasn't happened yet. There's been independent candidates who got into the race for legislative seats here in California, but so far no minor party candidates or alternative party candidates, as I prefer to call them. In California, the Green Party as I've been reporting, is fielding, or I should say, Butch Ware is fielding himself as a candidate for the governorship as a Green Party candidate. He was the vice presidential candidate with Jill Stein for the Green Party's presidential race in 2024. Of course, they lost that race, but it raised his profile quite significantly nationally, especially among Green Party voters and Muslims who were very disgusted with the with both parties, but the Democrats in particular, where they had found, they thought, a home, with Muslims who were very unhappy with the Democrats' support for the Israeli government and their unrelenting military campaign against Palestinians. So Butch Ware, he has been campaigning for governor very actively, and the Green Party of California is holding its General Assembly this coming Saturday, June 14th. That will be online for those of you who want to look into this and register and watch it. He did ask for their endorsement, and the candidate committee of the Green Party of California did make the recommendation that they should approve of his candidacy. Now, Ware has been very active in raising money. He has connections with both Black communities and with Muslim communities around the state and even around the nation. He has had a very active social media profile, raised a lot of money, made a lot of appearances. So he has a very active campaign, especially for a alternative party candidate. And his aim is to get enough votes to get into the top two in that race. Now, with the governor of California, the Democratic governor, Gavin Newsom, currently not eligible to run again because of term limits, you have a variety of Democrats running for the office, which means that they might split the Democratic vote between them, lowering each of them individually, lowering the vote for each of them individually, and give Ware a chance to actually get enough votes to come in at least to second place and run against the Democrat in the general election. That's what he's hoping to achieve, and there's a possibility he might achieve it. Now, he said even if Kamala Harris gets into the race and she becomes the the favorite to win the Democrats' support, and he still thinks he can get into the top two. And running against her, he says, put me in a debate with Kamala Harris, and it's not a quote, but run circles around her. So he's feeling very confident. We'll see what comes out of that whole effort. We'll be watching it as we go into the election year. The primary in California for governor and for other races as well is next June. We'll be voting here from May 2nd, I think, to June, May something anyway, to June 2nd. So that's about a year away. He has about a year to do this. Now, if any other Green candidates appear on the ballot, they will be putting themselves forward, and most likely without the Green Party's endorsement. So be very suspicious of anyone that does that, because the only point to it would be to try to drain some Green Party votes away from Ware to make it less likely that he can get into the top two. All right. In another state which has a top two system, Washington State up north, there also is a candidate who has been affiliated with alternative parties and is now running for a congressional seat. This candidate also has a high profile, comparatively speaking, and her name is Kshama Sawant. She was a member of the Socialist Alternative Party, who ran for she ran for a couple of offices and didn't win, and then ran for the Seattle City Council and won a succession of elections, held that seat for 10 years from 2013 all the way to 2023, when she resigned from that office in order to form a new organization called Workers Strike Back. And that is where on this channel we last saw her. This was 3 months ago in the first convention for Workers Strike Back, where she spoke along with Jill Stein and the well-known author and reporter Chris Hedges. So I had clips from each of their speeches at that event. And now, as I said, she is running for Congress in Washington's 9th congressional district, but she's running as an independent. She did form a new party because in the Socialist Alternative Party, she was, I guess, was unhappy with it in some way, formed this Workers Strikes Back organization, trying to organize unions and workers around a political agenda. And then she was unhappy because she felt like Socialist Alternative was trying to dominate that organization instead of letting it be an independent mass organization. Subsequently, she founded a new political party called the Revolutionary Workers' Party. This was just last year that she formed this, but she's not running under that party label, which is probably a smart move. I think it would be a little off-putting to a lot of voters otherwise. But she's well known as a city councilor in Seattle, so people know she has left-wing views. She's a socialist, and she does have an agenda that might prove to be very popular, opposing support to the Israeli military actions against the Palestinians, and also for Medicare for all and similar types of proposals from the left side of the spectrum. So Sawant, relatively well known, running as an independent in a top two system in Washington state, trying to get into Congress. So we'll be watching that race as well. Their primary will be in August 4th of next year. So that's a little bit further away, but we'll see how it develops. Okay, now the other news with Donald Trump, of course, was his fight with Elon Musk over the weekend. Musk criticizing his big, beautiful bill, which he regarded as favoring spending a lot of money on immigration enforcement at the expense of raising the government debt. He is more interested in government debt, and that's why he got involved in this. Of course, he formed that DOGE team, the Department of Government Efficiency, trying to cut down on waste, fraud, and abuse in the government, essentially cutting government spending wherever they could and laying off people and doing that. He wants to get government spending down to reduce the debt. And he felt like this big, beautiful bill was not doing that. So one of the things he did just recently, this would be last Thursday, he posted on X, which is the social media platform I think you know that he owns, and asked the question, is it time to create a new political party in America that actually represents the 80% in the middle? And he, as of the time I copied this, he got about 80% of his voters saying yes and about 20% saying no. Not surprising results, given that people who are following his ex post are likely to be people that like the idea of Musk breaking ranks with Trump and doing something different. And then immediately after that, Andrew Yang jumped on this and in Politico gave an interview in which he said he wanted to invite Elon Musk to join the Forward Party, which is already established as a centrist party and trying to get off the ground. They actually, I think, have a candidate running for Congress somewhere. I'm not sure of that, but they do have a candidate somewhere. And maybe another candidate who converted from one of the major parties to the Forward Party, I think, left the Republicans. I'm going off my very poor memory, so don't take any of that part of it as gospel. Anyway, Andrew Yang, founder of the Forward Party, said he is reaching out to Elon Musk to see if he will join the Forward Party and help them get that off the ground rather than forming a totally different party. I think that's a bad idea, Mr. Yang. If you're listening, Elon Musk is used to getting his own way over everything, and you're going to have to sell your soul in exchange for whatever money he can use to help the Forward Party. He will dominate it, and he will, take it in whatever direction his whims desire, would be my prediction. So careful what you wish for, Mr. Yang. All right, let's go then to the Libertarian Party, which, as I reported during the presidential election year last year, went through a major infighting of its own over the chair of the party, Angela McArdle, who is a member of the Mises Caucus, which was fomenting division within the party in the first place, but they gave too much support. Her and the Mises Caucus seemed to be giving more support to Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy than to their own party nominee, Chase Oliver. And so that caused a lot of dissension within the party. She resigned as chair right after the election. and then said that she was up for a job in the Trump administration, which would seem to be a payoff for her efforts to neutralize the Libertarian Party as a competitor for votes with the Republican candidate there. But there was a post on the weekend on her X account, apparently. This is reported by George Felix just a couple of days ago in the Third Party Watch website. And he says that the X post by her said that she stepped into the role of the chair of the National Mises Caucus and that she's recruiting a coalition of Bitcoiners and MAGA people, that is, Make America Healthy Again, the Robert F. Kennedy group, to join the Libertarian Party. In January, I anticipated taking a job very quickly and stepped down from chair of the National Party, but the hiring process has unfortunately taken a long time, so I'll make the most of my time until I take on the job. So what's going on here? Well, it seems like the promised payoff of a job in the Trump administration has not materialized, at least not yet, maybe never, and so she is looking around for a platform in which to further her political ambitions. Here is a page of her, I guess, new website, because it has very little content on it. Angela McArdle, Libertarian speaker and leader. She is, I assume, looking for speaking gigs as a way to raise money for herself. She also has merchandise for sale on this website, political games of some kind. That's about all I know about that. So she continues to be a thorn in the side of the Libertarian Party as it tries to rebuild itself and regain the trust of its larger membership. Not helpful, I would say. And finally, No Labels, which is yet another centrist party. Not that the Libertarian Party is centrist, but in competition with maybe Yang's Forward Party and others trying to create some kind of centrist party like Elon Musk. The No Labels Party is not dead and gone. They are actually having a conversation online. Let's take a look at their post here on their website. No Labels conversation on the two-party system. You can join this if you like. You go to their website, No Labels, and you RSVP, sign up, and of course you'll be on their mailing list forever after, unless you do something to try to get off it. But you can listen in on that conversation. That would be on Wednesday, July 9th from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time, which is where I am. That's all I got for you today. Do check out my other channel. If you're interested in religion and spirituality and politics, check out my channel, Buddha Meets Jesus, on YouTube, exclusively on YouTube, because I was too lazy to put it up on other channels so far. And that's all for today. Thanks again for watching. I love to hear your comments, so please comment below. And if you like the kind of things I cover, share this with other people. Like, subscribe, all that. And to those of you who've been following me all along, thanks for keeping company with me here. And I really appreciate that. So, bye.